Hey guys, so I'm working on that dresser that is going to have the gold transfer on it. I'm painting it in the color Louvre. It's black, and I want to add a couple of molds just to add a little bit of a focal point, just a little detail to it since it is a rather plain dresser. So now it had keyholes on it, and the metal pieces, they weren't anything special. So I want to add a couple of keyholes. I'm thinking about doing this one. Now this mold is discontinued. This was very long time ago when Prima and IOD were one company. So that is no longer the case. They are two separate companies. But now this mold is super old and you really can't find it anywhere anymore. So Prima does make another mold. I'll have the link for it. And it's very similar to this one. So, you can totally get that mold instead. It's just I have this one on hand. So I'm going to use this one. And then I'm going to use this one as well. This one has some really fun moldings. And I'm going to use this one here. I'm only going to use the top part, like maybe down to here-ish. And I'm going to use that on the edges of my dresser. So to make these, I'm going to show you guys how I do it. I use the Amazing Casting Resin. This stuff is super cool. It dries white, so it's not clear, but it dries in 10 minutes, so you really can't beat that. And usually you paint it anyway, so it doesn't matter what color it is. So I'm going to show you guys how I do this. Now the resin comes in two parts, so you want to make sure that you have your little mixing cup and you want to get equal parts of each. If you don't, it's not going to dry correctly. So to do the two, actually, yeah, I like to do the clear side first, side A, because it's thicker. And then side B helps it get out. So now I'm just going to fill it up all the way, and I'll do those two. So that's side A. Side B, same thing, fill it up all the way, the little cup. You want to make sure that you use tools that you can throw out because the resin hardens and you're not going to be able to get it out. So make sure you use things that you can easily just toss. Okay, and then you're just going to stir it really, really well. Now the Amazing Resin, they do make two different kinds, so you want to make sure you get the quick dry one. Otherwise it's going to take 24 hours to dry as normal, so you really don't want that. Mix it really, really well. The reason why I want to use the resin versus paper clay is because I want these to turn out perfect. I don't want any cracking or shrinking or anything like that. And now the resin turns warm as it activates when it mixes together. So that's how you know that it is almost time to pour. So once it starts to get really, really warm. Okay. So now that you have it mixed, you're going to pour. So now I'm going to do two of these ones. And I'm going to do two of these ones. Now when you get like those really tiny details, it's good if you have a dropper, but I don't, so I kind of just let it drip into the spot that I need. That way I don't make a big mess. Now I have extra. You don't want to mix too much of the resin at one time because it does dry so quickly, hardens quickly, that if you mix too much, it's going to harden in your mixing cup, and you don't want that. Let's see, I'm just going to do a couple of these here. Since I have the extra resin, I don't like it to go to waste. You can see it's starting to pour a little bit thicker here, thicker than normal. That means that it's really starting to harden already. And it actually is starting to turn white as I pour it. So that's it. Try to get this last little pour. Almost, but not quite. So see that? Hardened as I poured it. So yeah, it definitely hardens quickly. So you want to be careful with that. Then as it hardens, you'll see it turns white. It does take a little bit, but it's not too bad. About 10 minutes or so, and then you can pop it out. Now resin, a lot of people like the resin better just because it does come out really crisp. You get those crisp details, no shrinking, there's no cracking, and you can paint over it right away. The only time really that I like to use the paper clay is when I need them to be pliable, like when I'm going to be layering the molds. I do that often when I do my pieces that have like a bunch of flowers on them and that kind of thing. So then you got to use the paper clay, that way you can mold them together. The resin, it gets so hard, you're not going to be able to do that. It is a little bit pliable at first. You'll be able to bend it like around a slight corner, but as soon as it totally hardens, you got no shot of bending it at all. It's rock solid. So you just need to watch out for that. And then again, so you don't want to mix too much. So this is pretty hard now. The cup is actually really hot, so you need to be careful for that. You should definitely be wearing gloves. It's one of those do as I say, not as I do things. I don't like to wear gloves. They really bother me. So I don't wear them too often, which is why I get paint and stuff all over my hands, and I'm not going to get my nails done. Totally not worth it. But this piece that I'm working on, it has this, I don't know if you guys can see it on the camera, but all here. So the piece, I guess the top snapped and it just kind of broke into two pieces. So the previous owners tried to fix it. I'm not sure exactly what they did here, but I'm going to need to try to hide this somehow. And they definitely sanded it because it like dips in here. So I'm gonna have to Bondo this line here, and then I'm gonna sand down the Bondo, and I'm thinking what I'll do is I'll put a stripe, or I'll do something to hide that, because this wood, it's really pretty up top, and I could definitely save the top as long as I can hide this part here. The drawers I wasn't so lucky with. They had some issues, so I had to paint the drawer fronts. But the top, I think I can definitely save as long as I can cover this middle part here that goes the whole entire length. So now you're just gonna wait until these are ready to pop. The ones that were drying already are actually ready to pop out, so they easily pop out. That's it. You're just going to kind of peel it out, pop it out, and that's it. So now these ones, it's already kind of drying, so you're not going to have like those crisp details. But you see what I mean, where it's still kind of pliable as it's drying? So that is where you can definitely get it onto a rounder piece. The thicker the mold is, the less chance you have of it bending at all. So you just play around with it. Now I get this Amazing Resin off of Amazon. I haven't found it in stores at all, but if you look around, maybe Hobby Lobby or somewhere might have some, I'm not sure. I just get it off Amazon. Same thing with the paper clay. I get everything off Amazon. So now this might take a little bit longer to dry. I see it taking quite some time. Maybe it hasn't been quite the 10 minutes. I'm just impatient. So you can see it. It's still sticking a little bit here. That side's popping off, but that side's still sticking. So you just want to be careful with that. Okay, so this one wasn't totally dry when I was putting it in. Now you can see those details, and you can see, like here, I'll have to dig out the keyhole there if I want to use it for the keyholes on the dresser. So that was a good one. These ones are going to take a little bit longer. The ones I first poured, because they're like perfect. Those are going to be the ones that I'll use. Well, of course, if you guys have any questions about anything, always feel free to reach out. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, of course, Home Talk. I'm always willing to, you know, share any tips and tricks that I have, and I like talking to everybody and seeing everybody's projects. It's nice to be able to inspire each other and, you know, dig through each other's brains a little bit. Let's see if I can get this one out now. I think this one's an older one too. This mold, I believe this is definitely an older one, but I think it's still available. I know I have one in the store, but I'm not sure if they're readily available elsewhere. So I'll only have one of these available, but they have a ton of different molding ones. There's, you know, thicker moldings and the thin moldings, and you got a whole bunch to choose from. It's the best thing about Prima. There's so many different varieties of molds and transfers. I mean, you have endless options here, especially if you start layering, and it's a lot of fun to really play around with the different products that Prima offers. But yeah, so this might take a little bit longer, but you got the gist of it, of how to just pop them out. Super easy, super simple. And then if you're going to use the paper clay, make sure that you dust it with cornstarch. You dust the mold with the cornstarch. That's why you see here it's like a little dusty. So you dust them with cornstarch first, then you can put the paper clay in. If you try to just put the paper clay into the silicone molds, it's going to stick and you are not going to get your design. So you definitely need to dust with cornstarch first, and then it'll pop right out. So of course, guys, any questions, please feel free to reach out. I would love to hear from you, and I thank you guys for watching.